before we get on to Usyk Bellew, I just want to go back to Saturday night briefly. The overriding sort of feeling in the presser afterwards seemed to be relief from you and for Joshua.
It was, yeah. I've never seen Josh. I mean, he didn't tell me about his flu. I mean, whether you call it flu or man flu or whatever it is, he weren't well. But at the press conference, at the workout, he never mentioned it to me. And as soon as I got in the ring, he went, "I've been so ill." I was like, and it wasn't just that. We were walking around the stadium at the press conference, and he went to me, "Imagine if I lost here." And we lost out in a Wilder fight. I was like, "All right, mate." Because when you back yourself to do something, when it pays off, it's really rewarding. And that's what I spoke to him about yesterday. We said, enough's enough, we've got to make a decision. Let's go with Povetkin. We never choose Povetkin for a voluntary defence, ever. So it's like, blimey, you've got to fight Povetkin. And worse than that, not a lot of people know about Povetkin. So even if you beat him, will you get the credit? Luckily, people saw how good Povetkin was, so you do get the credit. And like I said, it was a feeling of relief because it's like, we've done our bit. We're staying alive in the game, because if you lose at that level, you've lost everything. And you can do that against someone like Povetkin. I mean, there isn't many heavyweights that would have beaten Povetkin on Saturday. So it was, you're right, a massive sense of relief to say, we're okay, we've still got the belts and we move forward.
I noticed just before the presser started, Joshua leant to you and said, "What do you reckon these lot are going to say?" As in the press. Was there...
I'm not sure he said that, but...
No?
No.
So he was... I mean, he seemed...
He's not a talker.
No. He didn't seem particularly happy.
No, he was happy. I mean, he was very happy with his performance. I mean, he knows that he wasn't 100% and he was sloppy early on, started a bit slow. But, I see a couple of people who had Povetkin up in the fight. Not for me. I mean, I did 4-2, but I had Povetkin a real threat, particularly early on. Then I saw a very clever Joshua bust him up to the body, bust his eye up, and just set him up for the right hand. And when he did, he's the best finisher in the division. So I thought it was a great performance, such a great learning fight for him. But let's look at what we're saying, a learning fight for a unified heavyweight world champion who's had 22 fights. So he's having to learn in these fights. He's probably 4 or 5 fights away from his absolute prime, right? 3 or 4 fights away from his prime. So, he's having to fight the very best in the world, having not been the complete finished article. So every time he's in those fights and he wins, it's a big win.
You mentioned in the presser that the offer, the $50 million offer, will look like peanuts by the time that Wilder Joshua. Now, does that mean you're going to be offering Wilder anymore?
Yeah, we will do. Yeah, we have to. I mean, we agreed.
Has that happened yet?
We had a deal with Wilder
for
$15 million that he accepted. Didn't just say our offer is 15. It was all the points of the offer, which they wrote back and said we accept the offer. Okay. Now they come out and said, they made us a bullshit offer. You accepted the offer in writing. Can't have been that bad. But we then went back, signed a contract, and said, here's all the points that you've agreed, sign the contract. For them to say that we don't want the fight, if they sign that bit of paper, it's legally binding. You can't just then say, haha, only joking, we didn't really mean it. It's an executed contract. So now we've gone back to him and said, you agreed everything that we offered. Now you're not agreeing everything we offered. No problem, we won't hold it against you. But what do you want now? Okay, so the only way this fight can
presumably they want more money.
Well done. So at the end of the day, the only way this fight can happen is if he beats Tyson Fury, because Fury will have a rematch clause, etc., etc. So therefore, we have to make an offer based on him beating Tyson Fury, which will give him a lot more value in this fight. So yes, it will be an improved offer. But we can't wait till December 1 to negotiate, because then it'll be January 1, then it'll be February 1. And I'm not letting anybody disrupt the career of Anthony Joshua. Everything has been absolutely perfect. So beginning of October, I think 5th or the 6th, my old man's got a meeting scheduled with Shelley. Hopefully they can make some progress. There's no reason why the deal can't be in place.
But obviously he's going into a very risky fight as well against Tyson Fury.
It doesn't matter.
No, what I mean is that means the chances of him fighting Joshua, obviously, just by their very nature, the fact that he's got to fight Tyson Fury, and should he lose, there will be a rematch.
Yeah, no, if he loses, there's no fight.
Yeah.
But there's no reason why we can't have a deal in place that says, if you beat Tyson Fury, these are the terms, and it's on. It's quite simple.
Ideally, from your point of view, it'd be better if he had an easier fight in the interim.
Yeah. Well,
or not.
It would, but it wouldn't be. We wouldn't be improving our offer as such. Because if he beats Fury, it makes the Joshua fight much bigger. That's why I said the $50 million, which, by the way, they had to phone around various people that meant the deal couldn't take place to try and get the money together, which isn't particularly, say pleasant, but solid in terms of its approach, will look like peanuts. And even more so if we choose to do the fight in America. I mean, $50 million for that fight after Joshua's performance on Saturday and a potential win for Wilder in December will be peanuts if this fight takes place in America. But do we look at a 2-fight deal? One in April at Wembley, one in Vegas in December. That's something we could look at as well. We were open to suggestions. It just so happened they agreed to a deal that we offered. And now they say it was a terrible deal. But you agreed to it. It was very confusing. But if it's now terrible, even though you agreed to it, tell us what's not terrible and we'll make the fight.